All right, good afternoon, everybody. This is the Fantasy Sports Boss coming to you live just a little bit more than an hour to go before the NFL trade deadline. And we have breaking news right at the top. Breece Hall has let it be known to the Jets front office that he wants to be traded in the next hour. Breece Hall wants out. This an about face from what he had said multiple times going back to the winter over into the start of the season that he wanted to remain with the Jets. But seeing Sauce Gardner and Keenan Williams, the two best players, along with Hall and Garrett Wilson on the New York Jets, traded within the last hour and a half, Breece Hall has now officially, through his agent, let it be known he wants out and he wants to be traded in the next hour. So expect a deal there with Breece Hall, and that means Isaiah Davis would ascend to the starting role in terms of fantasy purposes for the New York Jets. Lot to uncover, to discuss, and really the NFL trade deadline is starting to become like the NBA and the MLB trade deadline. For years, the NFL trade deadline has been one big bore, but really, particularly starting last year and now into this year, we've seen a lot of trade, and of course, the Jets leading the way as they make some blockbuster trades today, and we're going to go all over all of that stuff. So the biggest one, obviously, so far is Sauce Gardner. The fact, and here's the thing: like there was no indication that the Jets were even entertaining any thoughts of trading Sauce Gardner. He is their most productive player. He's their most respected player in the industry, the best cover corner outside of Patrick Surtain in the NFL. So Sauce Gardner, just seeing that he gets traded to the Indianapolis Colts, and this could be a tremendous deal for the Colts, who are making a push at 7-2, who had to be startling for the Jets. And, when you consider that their head coach, Aaron Glenn, is a former multiple Pro Bowl cornerback on the Jets, that he had to have signed off on this, trading arguably his best player, is telling. The Jets get 2 first-round picks for Sauce Gardner. And, for me, I respect the player. I think Sauce Gardner is a tremendous cover corner, but I also think he's a bit soft. He's not a good tackler, sort of like in that Deion Sanders mode. And his play last year, certainly when this year, had slipped compared to the first 2 years he was in the league with the Jets. So maybe the Jets was the trade that rocked the NFL world and really started the cascade of events where Keenan Williams was then traded just about less than an hour later to the Dallas Cowboys, and Jerry Jones, who had said he had some trades that were completed, gets his guy. Dallas has been shredded all season. The defense has been just one big joke. And now they get Keenan Williams, who's been a Pro Bowler each of the last 3 years. He's going to anchor that Dallas defensive line, along with the guy that Kenny Clark that they got from Green Bay. So maybe this does help Dallas a little bit, coming off an awful loss to the Arizona Cardinals at home last night, just as they head into their bye week. But then, of course, like I said at the top, Breece Hall has now asked for a trade. He wants out. So looking at the Kansas City Chiefs, looking at the Pittsburgh Steelers, looking at the Chicago Bears, looking at the Houston, those 4 teams I think stand out in terms of the most likely landing spots for Breece Hall. In terms of fantasy, obviously the Kansas City Chiefs, they would be the team that you would look at there. And I would imagine Isaiah Pacheco would be sent back to the Jets if the trade was done. Adonai Mitchell was sent back to the Jets in the deal for Sauce Gardner. The Jets need some more help at wide receiver. And Mitchell, is a former, top pick for the Colts who hasn't exactly panned out. It makes sense there that they got him. But again, and really, if you look at it from the Jets' perspective now, they have 5 first-round picks over the next 2 years. So they're clearly tearing it all down. They're tearing it to the studs. And like I said, they've already traded Michael Carter. Wouldn't be surprised Allen Lazard gets either released or traded. Breece Hall. They're trading everybody at this point by the looks of it. Now, like I said, we still have an hour to go. Nothing yet on the whole situation. I have everything all lined up here. So as soon as the trade happens, I'll be able to tell you guys about it. But those are the big ones so far, at least from the Jets' perspective. Now, the other big one today is that the Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders, send Jakobi Meyers, who clearly was unhappy with team, to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I think this is a good move for Meyers in terms of his fantasy football value. He becomes really like maybe the 1A, 1B with Brian Thomas Jr., who just has not played well for the Jaguars this season. And again, it stands to reason. Was it Mac Jones who really brought that out of Brian Thomas, made Brian Thomas a late first-round pick in fantasy drafts this year? Because he has not come close to justifying that draft cost. It just hasn't happened. Like, I don't know. Brian Thomas just looks terrible this year. So, maybe this is a move. Maybe Jaguars realize maybe Brian Thomas Jr., he's beat up. He's had a injury. This gives Trevor Lawrence yet another weapon. And really, I've been a big fan of his. I can't make any more excuses for the guy. I mean, based on pure athletic ability, the cannon of an arm, he had all the tools you wanted for a franchise-changing quarterback coming out of Clemson. He hardly lost any football games going back to high school. The guy was nothing but a winner. I mean, you watch him at Clemson. Trevor Lawrence was as good as it gets. Like, he was just unbelievable. But I had seen an interview with Brian Baldinger, who's seen more video than anybody in terms of scouting players and whatnot for the league. And he is of the opinion, and Chris Sims was also on this podcast that I was watching, that they both were arguing that perhaps Trevor Lawrence peaked while he was at Clemson. Like, he's just not going to get any better than he was there. Now, certainly he was an unbelievable, otherworldly player with Clemson, but that's obviously a completely different level of competition than with the Jacksonville Jaguars in the NFL. Much faster game, much more elaborate defenses, games, all that other stuff. So maybe that's part of it. But again, getting back to Jakobi Meyers, this should help Trevor Lawrence. If you have him in a super flex league, this should help him a little bit there. Brian Thomas Jr., I'm not going to say he's a sunk cost, but I think it would not surprise me or anybody in the least if he becomes the number one receiver there in Jacksonville. I mean, maybe he could play as soon as this week. But Jakobi Meyers, we've seen the second half of last year and the first couple of weeks this year that, Jakobi Meyers is a terrific talent. Excuse me. And he has the skill set. We've seen like low end wide receiver, I would say even high end wide receiver 2 numbers from Jakobi Meyers. Certainly last season and the beginning part of this season, really, because I think he became just completely disenchanted with the team, wanted to move on, wasn't happy. And, the fact that he's now with Jacksonville could reinvigorate him. And I think you put him right back into your lineup. I mean, if you want to give it a week to see how much of the offense he learns, but they usually get these guys coached up pretty quickly. I think this is a boost for Jakobi Meyers for sure, and a boost for Trey Tucker. John just asked me the question there. Yes, Trey Tucker, who's got unbelievable speed. They got to throw it to somebody, right? So I think Trey Tucker becomes a person of interest as a wide receiver 3. They have the Broncos this week on Thursday. That's an awful matchup. It's I wouldn't even throw Tucker in there this soon. But at least for Jakobi Meyers, this does reinvigorate his sliding to this point fantasy football value. Rashid Shaheed going from the Saints to the Seattle Seahawks. And again, Sam Darnold coming off a 4-touchdown game. He's had a 5-touchdown game. And yes, Bronson, you drop Cooper Kupp, who's completely shot. There's no reason why Cooper Kupp should even be on a roster at this point, in my opinion. I think that Shaheed is what he is. He's not exclusively a one-trick pony in terms of being a deep threat, big play guy. More varied than that. But Jackson Smith and Jigba is the clear top guy. This will help Sam. This will help Rashid Shaheed. I mean, certainly he's got a better quarterback throwing to him. He's been like a medium wide receiver 3, boomer bust, touchdown, big play dependent guy with the Saints. Now he goes to the Seahawks. You can now bump him up to a high-end wide receiver 3. And Sam Darnold, who, listen, I I just lost Jaden Daniels in one of my leagues trying to make a deal for Sam Darnold. He's been unbelievable. You know, whatever happened with the Jets in Carolina, whatnot, he clearly has found whatever he was lacking earlier in his career. He was unbelievable with Minnesota last year. He's been unbelievable with Seattle this year. Now he's going to have to win a game down the stretch of the season. He's going to have to try to win a playoff game for the Seahawks. The knock on Sam Darnold last year was that as great as he was during the course of the regular season, he bombed when the last game of the regular season when the Vikings could have won the division. And then, of course, a really ugly performance in the wild card round of the playoffs. So, I think that there's certainly some issues there that Darnold's going to have to work through. But purely from a fantasy football standpoint, Sam Darnold clearly is an every week guy the rest of the season. And this season, this was, I said it back in the summer, this was the year where you could have avoided the top guys, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts. And listen, Hurts and Allen have been tremendous. Jaden Daniels, not so much because he's been injured. But the value to me was the value quarterbacks. Drake May, remember, he was on my list. I gave you guys these players that I told you I was going to draft in all my leagues and that you should too. I gave you Drake May. He's been great. I gave you Bo Nix. He's been great. I gave you Dak Prescott. He's been great. I gave you Caleb Williams coming off a 40-point game. He's been mostly great. I gave you Justin Fields. All right, not so much there, although he does have 2 30-point games. I told you to pair him with Dak Prescott, go back and forth between the two. All of those guys, other than Justin Fields, have been a hit. Now, I didn't see Daniel Jones coming. He's been another, a guy who's come out of nowhere. Sam Darnold, I was a little leery about him leaving Minnesota. The great coaching there with O'Connell. Although, if you're the Vikings front office, you got to answer questions as to how you let Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold walk out of the building. Seeing how both of those guys are going to get MVP votes this year, that's something that the front office certainly has to answer for there. But those guys have been unbelievable. All right. And the value this season was, the quarterback, if you could, if you will, though. So nothing has happened yet. A couple other names, like very, very quiet with Miami here. Just going to look at some, see if there's anything percolating on Jalen Waddle. There really hasn't been much said there. It seemed like he wasn't somebody that the Dolphins were inclined to move, although they should. And by the way, as far as, all right, so Brian Thomas Jr., I'm just looking at this. He's got a low-grade high ankle sprain against the Raiders, but he should be able to play through it in week 10. So listen, high ankle sprains usually are at least one missed game. Brian Thomas Jr. also has a shoulder injury. He hasn't been good this year. So was that the impetus for the Jaguars? And listen, they gave up a lot, like a 4th and a 6th round pick for a guy who's a pending free agent, unless you re-sign him. Like, that's a lot to give up. So maybe they just weren't comfortable with Brian Thomas Jr. in terms of his health. If he'd be able to, stay healthy the rest of the season, I don't know, but he's been very disappointing. And so again, perhaps that's the reason why they made the move for Jacoby Myers, who I think is going to be solid there. And certainly now Adonai Mitchell, there's no actionable move there for the Jets. And really for the Jets, I mean, does Garrett Wilson ask for a trade? I mean, you got to start to wonder, and how brutal is that if you're in this Jets locker room right now? You just saw your 2 best players get traded. You have nothing. It's really down to the studs other than Breece Hall, who should be traded, Garrett Wilson, Jamie Sherwood. There's not a lot left there. So it's a really rough message. I get the vision, though. Listen, they're 1-7. They don't have a quarterback. Aaron Glenn's his first year. Aaron Glenn's got to realize, listen, he's taken a lot of arrows. He hasn't come across very well here in the New York market. Anybody that's new to the channel, I'm in New York. I can tell you that he's got an adversarial relationship already with the press corps here. He's been very testy with the media. He's gotten into it a little bit, especially the last couple of weeks, about refusing to name who the starting quarterback is. To me, that's an amateur thing. He's learning on the job. Don't make an enemy of the media. It's not going to go well, especially in New York. Tell him who the starting quarterback is. Nobody's losing sleep about whether it's going to be Justin Fields or Tyrod Taylor starting at quarterback. Like, he's got to have more self-awareness than that, Aaron Glenn, to keep that information close to the vest. To me, he's lacking a little bit in the self-awareness mode by engaging with the media that way. But again, this team was going nowhere. The best course of action for Glenn and the front office, just tear it all down, start fresh. You're not winning the next couple of years. So what is Keenan Williams and Sauce Gardner going to do for you? They don't have a quarterback. And really this year, who's the obvious quarterback, right? You heard the names coming into the season. Cade Klubnik, how bad has he been for Clemson? Drew Aller was awful. He's given off some Kyle Bowler vibes to me with Penn State, and then he gets hurt. Garrett Nussmeier, who I like, hasn't played well this year. Arch Manning, a lot of pressure on him. He has played well, especially last week. He's played well the second half of the season. I don't know if he's going to come out as well. He actually could probably make more money talking about, Arch Manning as a collegiate player with the NIL than maybe as an NFL rookie. So that he may not be coming out. You got the Oregon kid, the Indiana kid. There's no clear consensus guy. Now, I think the Alabama quarterback would be my pick if he comes out. I like him. I've watched every Alabama game this year. He looks really good. He's on target. He's on time. And to me, that's always the biggest thing. Not the biggest arm. It's nice to have a strong arm. To me, it's all about throwing the ball out on time, reading the defenses, putting the ball where it needs so that the receiver can continue to run down the field. Those are all of the traits I look for. And that, in my opinion, translate to the next level better than anything. Juwan viable again. Nobody on the Saints is viable, Steve. I can't get behind anybody. I mean, Tyler Shuck didn't look good. Chris Olave, who I was a big fan of. I did trade him prior to this week 9 because I wasn't feeling the Tyler Shuck thing. Spencer Rattler, at least the one thing he did was funnel the ball to Chris Olave. That's now gone. We didn't even mention Alvin Kamara. I mean, the guy, he looks done. Like he looks absolutely done. Like he's been so bad this year that I'm closing it out on Alvin Kamara. I wouldn't even start Alvin Kamara the rest of the way. I wouldn't even start him as a flex. They're not throwing him the ball. And part of Alvin Kamara is the volume. Like coming into the season and even going into last season was, okay, the average has slipped. He's been on, under 4 yards. He looks like he's lost a step, but he's going to get, 60, 70 catches out of the backfield. Well, that hasn't been the case this year. And that has completely sabotaged Alvin Kamara's value to where I don't even think he's going to get traded. Unless there's a pick swap, a 6 for a 7. That's like the popular trade now, the 6-7 swap with a player. I don't know. So how about this? Andrew Erickson just posted this on X. This is funny. Brian Thomas Jr. went from facing Sauce Gardner and Pat Surtain from weeks 15 to 16 to now facing Sauce Gardner in week 14 and 17 with Pat Surtain in week 16. The guy can't catch a break. So that's interesting. So Brian Thomas Jr. in week 14 and 17, last week of the regular season in fantasy and the fantasy football championship, he's taking on Sauce Gardner. And then he's got Pat Surtain in week 16, the fantasy football semifinals. So if you're a Brian Thomas Jr. owner, it's not going to get any better from here. It doesn't look like it's happened. All right, let's see. Top 5 defense that's allowed 30-plus points in half its game this year. Talking about the Jets have now traded their 2 best defensive players. Breece Hall wants to get traded. This is according to NFL insider Jordan Schultz. So Breece Hall wants to be traded. Nothing has come about yet. And honestly, listen, when that happens, when a guy comes out and says he wants to get traded, you got to trade him. I said this the other day when I was talking about him. He's got a little bit of a diva in him. He's got a little bit of an attitude. I feel like he's going to be a problem. So Isaiah Davis, to me, would be a really, and listen, I like Isaiah Davis. He gives off a bigger Austin Eckler vibe to me. Could catch the ball out of the backfield. He's got some wiggle to him. He's got some decent speed. He's going to be a guy that's going to get a lot of catches out of the backfield. As you hear my dog barking upstairs. I think Isaiah Davis could certainly be a running back too in PPR the rest of the way. Listen, I have Isaiah Davis on one of my leagues. I'm waiting with bated breath to see what happens with Breece Hall. This will be the key here to see, what happens here. And again, I started to say about Breece Hall, when a guy asks for a trade, you got to give him a trade. I'm sorry. Like he's going to be a problem. I almost don't blame him. And really, if you're Breece Hall, why stay and bust it out every single week for a team that just traded your two best players? Like, that's a tough thing when it comes to the NFL, like the NBA, NHL, MLB, whatever. But when in the NFL, where guys are putting it on the line, taking these ferocious hits week in and week out, especially the running back position, it's a tough pill to swallow when you're Breece Hall taking 20 touches a game, taking all that pounding for a 1-17 that's waved the white flag, right? So you can almost understand it. I know, he should just shut up and play. Listen, there's no guaranteed contracts in the NFL. That's one thing that people forget. There's no guaranteed contracts. So Breece Hall could go out there in a meaningless game for a team that's laid down, tear up his knee again, and then he's out all of next season or half of next season. And looking at free agency, I think if they don't trade him and then they tag him, all hell's going to break loose. So I don't think that there's any chance here. I would be shocked if they don't trade him. Let me pull up even Rappaport to see if he's got anything new. This guy's plugged in on everything. It's unbelievable. Jets are getting the higher of the two firsts, Dallas or Green Bay's in 2027. They also got Maisie Smith, who can plug the run a little bit. Keenan Williams, he's another one. Bit of a problem in the locker room this year. I believe he only has about one sack. He just hasn't done much of anything. Talking about Keenan Williams. So, again, surprising that they tore it down to the studs the way they did. But once they got rid of Sauce Gardner, you can almost understand Keenan Williams as well. And there's more to come. We still have 45 minutes to go until the 4:00 deadline. And even some of these things might even trickle out after the deadline. Cover really get done 45. Yeah, I mean, listen, Steve, I think it's going to happen. I really think it's going to happen. Now, Jalen Waddle, that was the other one we were talking about. What does Miami do? They fired their GM. So there's no – the guy who drafted Greer, the one who drafted Waddle, he's no longer there. Now, he's signed, I believe, through 2028. So the Dolphins could ask for a decent haul for him because he's under contract. I've said I think the Jalen Waddle would be the perfect guy for the New York Giants to get. My Giants. I'm a long-suffering Giants fan. I can't even believe I'm saying this. Long-suffering Giants fan, even though I was able to witness 4 Super Bowls in my lifetime, 2, somewhat recently with Eli Manning, but those memories are becoming more fleeting by the day. It's just a bad situation in New York. But that being said, unlike the Jets, the Giants look like they got their guy. Jackson Dart looks the part. He's putting up fantasy points. I said he was going to be a top 12 guy. I might have even undersold it. He might even be a top 7 or 8 guy the rest of the way. He's picking up, 30, 40, 50 rushing yards. He's throwing a decent amount of touchdowns, even though he has no Malik Neighbors. Darius Slayton's been in and out of the lineup, and he's played bad as well. He hasn't had the weapons, but he's still getting it done. Talking about Jackson Dart. And he's got And the real shame of it all too is Cam Skattebo getting injured, because he was a lot of fun to watch as well. And does Breece Hall get traded to the Giants? Why not, right? I mean, they could have the ultimate lightning and thunder combination. It worked in the past for the Giants, right? With Brandon Jacobs, right? Breece Hall. You pair Breece Hall with Cam Skattebo. As much fun as it is to watch Cam Skattebo, and he runs over people, he trucks people, he doesn't have speed. He doesn't have pure speed. He ran a 4.62 at the combine. He doesn't have that second gear. He's not going to go around left or right, gain yardage. It's just not his game. Breece Hall can do that. Both are really, really good receivers. Breece Hall's a terrific receiver. It's been criminalized. The Jets have failed to use him in the passing game this year. And again, a lot of it goes back to the mobile quarterback. This has been a thing I've been harping on forever. I know you're sick of me saying it. I'm sick of hearing myself say it. Mobile quarterbacks don't throw to their running backs. Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, Justin Fields, they tuck it and run. They don't throw to their backs. So when you start evaluating running backs next year, if this seems new to you, this notion, running mobile quarterbacks not throwing to the running backs, you need to factor that into the draft cost. All right. Don't draft running backs in PPR, or just be careful how much you're willing to pay for them when they're attached to a running quarterback, because they don't throw underneath. They'll just keep it and run it. So that's why Breece Hall, I think, only has about 21, 22 catches on the season, when he's capable of going 50 plus, no doubt about it. Saquon Barkley, same thing. The guy caught 91 passes with the Giants. He hasn't come anywhere near that with the Eagles. Game against the Giants, everybody does that against the Giants. I was right about Saquon Barkley being concerned about him with all the mileage that he had on him last year with the Eagles. These guys tend to not bounce back right the following season. Would you go Darnold or Jim? I lost JD. Yeah, I lost Jaden Daniels as well. I don't trust JJ McCarthy. I'm all Sam Darnold. Now he's got two terrific receivers, and Cooper Kupp's not a factor. Right? He should be dropped in all. He should have been dropped already. The guy looks done. I mean, and that was one mistake that front office made. They made a lot of good calls. That wasn't a good one. That wasn't a good one with Cooper Kupp. But now you've paired Jackson Smith and Jigba, and now we're starting to see too. Talking about JSN, you heard all those stories. Oh, he was the best receiver in Ohio State when Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave were there. And then, he a little slow out of the gates. But now we're seeing what all that talk was about. Because he's been better than Garrett Wilson this year. He's been better than Chris Olave. All three are tremendous talents, don't get me wrong. But really seeing Jackson Smith and Jigba put himself right at the top, the very top of the NFL in receiving. And now he gets a deep threat in Rashid Shaheed, who's only going to soften up the middle for JSN even more. Okay, so this is a good move for Seattle. And it's a good move for Sam Darnold, who can't be stopped right now. 4 touchdowns. And how about that? That was a dream scenario for if you were a Sam Darnold owner, to get, 4 touchdown passes in a span of what seemed to be 10 minutes of real time that went by. I had a friend of mine who's a Sam Darnold owner. His phone was pinging incessantly. Touchdown, 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 touchdown. I mean, everything. The game was just crazy. And Seattle, they look like a contender. They absolutely look like a contender right now. Jaden, would I drop him? I don't know. I'm kind of wrestling with that decision myself. I don't know if he's coming back this year. And it's a shame. Listen, don't give me sophomore slump on this guy. CJ Stroud had a sophomore slump. Jaden Daniels just got injured. He just had bad injury luck. That was it. If Breece Hall gets traded, it's Isaiah Davis. And I think Isaiah Davis has the goods to be a strong running back too the rest of the way. But yeah, talking about Jaden Daniels, and I've talked incessantly about how good that draft class was at the quarterback position last year. Jaden Daniels just got unlucky this year with injuries. I don't think it was a sophomore slump. I mean, the bottom has fallen out on that team. Maybe Deebo Samuel gets moved in the next, 40 minutes. That's possible. Yeah, Steve, that's the thing. I was screaming to the rafters about the tight end. Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, and as amazing as talent as those two guys are, the stat I gave you over the summer, to justify drafting a tight end in the second round, and that's where Bowers went in the majority of leagues, and Trey McBride in that 2-3 region, right on the number there. They have to average 18 plus PPR fantasy points a week to justify that draft slide. And it doesn't happen at the tight end position. I believe it's only happened twice. It was Rob Gronkowski and Tony Gonzalez, who the two of the greatest tight ends of all time. So it's never a good idea to use a tight end. I made the one exception the year Travis Kelce, coming off the year where he was 100 points better than TJ Hockenson, who was number 2 in PPR points. That was the only time I would ever consider that. And that didn't even work out that year. And drafting a quarterback early, I've gone in the third round the last couple of years, taking either Jalen Hurts or Josh Allen. I've done that. I didn't do that this year. All right. I felt like the value was much better in the middle rounds. I had Baker Mayfield on one team. I take that back. I have 3 teams. I had Baker Mayfield in one league. I traded for Pat Mahomes in another. Jaden Daniels. I think he fell into the 4th round, though. I don't think I took him into the 3rd round. So, Daniels didn't work out. Mayfield has worked out to this point, although the last couple of weeks have been rough. But the value at the quarterback position exponentially was, those mid-tier guys, even cheaper than that. Really, those second-year guys, all of them have hit. People get Mahomes. Yeah, Mahomes was that was it. I drafted Joe Burrow. I didn't do the top 3 or 4 guy in the league. I took Joe Burrow, and of course he gets hurt. So Pat Mahomes was drafted, behind Hurts, Daniels, and all leagues. And he's been the best. This is the Pat Mahomes from a couple of years ago. All right, Connor, what do you got? I gave Gene and Algier for Kyren Williams. I have Corum and the other guy, and Bijan. I'm fine with that. I mean, listen, Gene T, every time he touches the ball, he's getting hit in the backfield. They don't have Jacoby Myers now. Teams are just going to stack the box even more against him. I have Gene T in one league. I have no issue with the player. I have an issue with the awful, awful blocking. It's been terrible. As soon as and I've watched every game he's played this year because I have him on one team. As soon as he touches the ball, he's hit almost every time in the backfield. Almost everything he's gotten has come from yards after contact. And he's doing the best he could with what's a really bad Raiders team. They stink. I think you got out on the right time. I'm actually trying to trade him myself. I'm actually trying to use him in one of my leagues to get Josh Allen because I just lost Jaden Daniels. But anyway, listen, still nothing on Breece Hall. Again, this could go right down to the wire here. Commanders just signed Treylon Burks. I don't think that's anything. I don't think that's anything to concern yourself there. I'm just looking. I'm not seeing anything else being posted yet about Breece Hall. Still nothing there. So I've seen virtually nothing on Jalen Waddle. I haven't seen anything on Deebo Samuel, who I still think could be traded. I don't know what his contract situation is there. But clearly the Jets have been the story today. Probably a positive record. Thanks. King Dowdle. Yeah, how about that guy? How about Rico Dowdle? I mean, the last couple of years with Dallas, he was just okay. Right? I mean, he was more of a receiver than anything. And then what he's done with Carolina, of all teams. Now, here's the thing with Carolina. They beefed up that offensive line. They took a page out of the Detroit Lions playbook. Lions have had one of the best offensive lines for years, and that's why David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs have been so good. They really addressed that offensive line. And Rico Dowdle, one cut, quick guy, in and out. He's been unbelievable. And I said this multiple times already. Rico Dowdle, now that he's the clear-cut starter, could be the biggest factor in skewing fantasy football leagues this season. Last year was Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers was the number 1 skew player in fantasy last year because he was like an 8th or a 9th round pick, and he put up record-breaking numbers at tight end the shallowest position in fantasy. So he skewed fantasy football more than any player. Rico Dowdle will be that guy if he continues to put up 30-point games the rest of the season. So, it's, Kyren and Puka were both off waivers that year. That's right. I remember that. I don't think there's any question that Rico Dowdle is the story of the fantasy football season in terms of skewing the results if he can continue to do what he's been doing. And for me, I have him in 2 of my 3 leagues. That's really helped me out. Oh, so somebody asked me what my records are in fantasy. So we got some time, still nothing. My friends and family league, I'm 13-5. We do a head-to-head matchup and we do median score. By the way, the median score thing, we tried it out for the first time in my friends and family league this year. I actually really like it. I think it's, it avoids that situation where you have a week where you beat everybody else but your opponent and you don't get anything to show for it. Whereas a median score, you would get at least 1 win. So I highly recommend that. So I'm 13-5 in second place for my friends and family league. One of my leagues from my old job, I'm still in. I'm 7-2, 1 game out of first. I'm in second in that one as well. And then in my current job, I'm 5-4, and I had started 4-1. I'm 5-4, and I'm in third place, 2 games out of first. So, not bad. We in all 3 of my leagues, we have a prize for regular season champion. So that's a good incentive there. But I do think median score, if you guys haven't added that to your league already, that would be something that you should look into for sure. And also get rid of the kicker. And even if you want to get rid of the defense, I would do that. I would do that as well. I traded for Trevor Lawrence for Jackson Dart. I'm shocked somebody took, Trevor Lawrence for Jackson Dart. I guess maybe they're getting caught up in the excitement of Jacoby Myers. I think it's a good trade. Listen, Jackson Dart, as bad as the Giants are, he's putting up points in garbage time, especially. Jackson Dart, he scores on his first possession almost every time. And then he goes into a lull in the second and third quarter as the Giants start to blow the game. And then he starts putting up garbage time points left and right, and it all counts, right? So it all counts the same. So I think that that's a good trade. Trevor Lawrence, I've been a sucker for this guy for way too long. It's actually starting to make me look bad that I keep making excuses for Lawrence. So I would say that you won that trade fairly easily. All right, let's go to X here. Let's see what we got on Breece Hall. Type in Breece Hall trade, and let's see what's coming up. Isaiah Davis managers waiting for a Breece Hall trade. It shows Sylvester the Cat pacing back and forth. Frank Amarante, friend of mine, fantasy pundit. Chiefs need to hurry up and trade a 3rd-round pick for Breece Hall. Breece is the missing piece to this offense. It would make them completely unstoppable. I totally agree. They're coming off a rough loss to the Bills. Did the Chiefs give a 3rd-round pick for Breece Hall? I think he's worth it, especially if you're the Chiefs. How long is Andy Reid going to coach? If that's what it takes to get Breece Hall, I would do it. And you could even franchise the guy next year. And I think he would be amenable to taking a decent contract with the Chiefs. Thoughts on Loveland rest of season? I like him, Michael. It was very curious. That was a head-scratching move when the Bears took him over Tyler Warren, because Tyler Warren was universally considered to be the number 1 tight end coming out of the draft that year. For whatever reason, they saw something in Loveland. They decided to take him over Warren. And it's been really kind of slow go with Loveland up until the last couple of weeks. And certainly last game, he was tremendous. Clearly, he's a great athlete, tremendous receiver. I thought Tyler Warren had more versatility to his game, but I think he's well worth using the rest of the way there. Thoughts on Trey Benson? I'm holding him in 1 league. I think he's going to be the guy. I know Dan Mercado played well last night, but listen, you got to grade on a curve when you're playing either the Bengals or the Cowboys. So I think Trey Benson, he'll be solid. I don't know how good he's going to. We haven't seen that from him. We don't know how good Trey Benson is going to be, but I would hold on to him because I think he's going to be a fantasy asset the rest of the way. Still refreshing on Breece Hall, 30 minutes to go. All right, so nothing there for Breece Hall. Let's put in Jaylen Warren. Let's see if there's anything percolating. Jaylen Waddle. Let's see if there's anything percolating there. I still think the Giants, they got to get somebody. Did they get Chris Olave? He's got a lot of concussions. All right. The Steelers, are the Steelers going to do something? Like, they could use Breece Hall as well. I don't think this is not. So you got to be careful now. So you get these spoofs on X, Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter. You have these fake X accounts where they change one letter of the name, and especially Ian Rappaport. You look at the name real quick; it's easy to kind of glance over it and think it's legit. You got to look carefully now to see if it's the actual X account of Schefter or Ian Rappaport, because I just came across an Adam Schefter one that said Breece Hall's been traded. But the guy's got 200 followers. So, this is the world we live in now, and it's weird too, because you go on X, you go on Facebook, and you see this stuff, and a lot of it's AI now. So you don't even know what to believe anymore. It's actually kind of scary if you ask me. Some of the stuff that's on there now, you can't even believe it, right? You gotta be, see if it's fake, it's AI, whatever. All right, so Breece Hall, nothing there. So, this has got to happen, right, folks? It's got to happen. Brian Costello, who writes for the New York Post, I follow his blog as well. He has not posted anything. He's the Jets beat reporter for the New York Post. He hasn't written anything yet there as well. So I'll keep refreshing and keep checking that as we have now less than a half hour, right? Less than a half hour to go. Before we hit that deadline. This is exciting. It's election day today too. There's a lot going on. Hopefully you all got out and voted. That's your civic duty. So, I think, and I don't know if it's like with the MLB trade deadline where some of these deals could get announced after the deadline. Like I know baseball, a lot of times they'll have trades that'll go down right before the deadline, and they got to process it. They got to send it to the commissioner, and you don't hear about it until 4:10 or 4:15. So that might be something that we have to look at there. Tonight is waivers too, so comes at the perfect time. We have waivers. Colston Loveland is somebody I would pick up off waivers. Trey Benson, see if he's there. Trey Tucker, that's somebody I would pick up there. Isaiah Davis, you empty the fab completely, whatever you have remaining if Breece Hall gets traded. For Isaiah Davis, I really like him. I seem to like him more than others. I think he can do the job. They have Khalil Herbert, so, they'll be able to spell him a little bit there. But, listen, the Jets, they play the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns defense is unbelievable. It's going to be real tough sledding. Does Garrett Wilson rush himself to come back this week? I don't know. He's missed a couple of games with a knee injury. Would you blame him if he didn't rush back? So, I don't know. I really don't know what they're going to do there. But my Giants, still no wide receiver. Jacoby Myers was somebody I was thinking that the Giants might be in on. But, the fact that he's a free agent, I think the Jaguars gave up a lot to get him. Maybe they think they could re-sign him. If you're going to give up a fourth and a six, six, maybe not such a big deal, but the fourth, that's got value. You better hope to re-sign the guy. That would be imperative if I'm the Jaguars. The Jaguars is just a weird team. I feel like, I thought they made a good coaching hire. I thought that would help Trevor Lawrence. It really hasn't to this point. What team Breece Hall go to? I still say the Chiefs have to be considered the favorites. And here's the other thing. The Jets want a 3 for Hall. Now that Hall has made it known that he wants out, do they settle now for a 4th? That's probably what's going on right now. If you're the Chiefs, if you're the Steelers, if you're the Texans, do you say, all right, listen, Jets, We know he wants out. He's going to be a malcontent. We'll give you a 4. Take him off your hands. Let's do it. That could be what's going on right now. It hurt the Jets' leverage for Hall's representatives or whoever that he wants to get traded. All right. But again, no surprise. And you can't blame him. I can't get on Breece Hall for this. And it could be Houston. Yes. Could be Pittsburgh. I've always had a nagging suspicion with Pittsburgh because, Jaylen Warren to me is not a starting running back. He's a complimentary back. Yes, he scored 2 touchdowns last week, but he averaged 2 yards per carry. So I don't think Jaylen Warren is a starting running back. I think he's a change of pace guy. Not to disrespect him, but that's just my opinion. I've always had a sneaking suspicion, especially, the Steelers, Aaron Rodgers' final season. Aaron Rodgers loved having Aaron Jones, and Aaron Jones is hurt again. So Jordan Mason, if anybody dropped Jordan Mason, pick him up off waivers. Does he go to the Vikings even? I don't know. Aaron Jones, one of my all-time favorites. You all know that, but the guy just can't ever stay healthy. Like, it's just, he can't ever stay healthy. Talking about Aaron Jones. It's quieted down. Nothing has come through now, other than that flurry that we had earlier today. Again. Okay. Sorry. I just saw something on Breece Hall. It says he wants it. I thought it said he was traded. So Jordan Schultz was the one. And Jordan Schultz, let me check out his X profile. See how plugged in. I don't know Jordan Schultz. NFL Insider hosted a Schultz report. He's got 389,000 followers. So obviously this guy's got some. Okay, teams have called. The Jets are not interested in trading wide receiver Garrett Wilson. So the Sharks are circling. This was 3 minutes ago. So the Sharks are circling. So I'm going to watch him closely here, Jordan Schultz, because it seems like he's got somebody on the inside for the Jets. So the Sharks was smelling blood in the water when it came to the Jets, and they were calling about Garrett Wilson. So interesting, right? So, and that makes sense, right? I mean, you see all these top guys getting traded by the Jets. It's why not take a shot, see if you can get something from him. I mean, Garrett Wilson, it would have to get at least a second, maybe a second and a third. Yeah, first round pick, I don't know. He signed that big contract, but then again, they got first round pick for Keenan Williams, and they got 2 for Sauce Gardner with that big contract. So perhaps that would be possible. So interesting. Garrett Wilson. They were calling about Garrett Wilson. All right. So Keenan Williams, the official deal is 2026 second round pick, 2027 first, and defensive tackle Mazie Smith. So 2 firsts in 2027. The Jets have 3 firsts in 2026. I mean, that's the way to do it. 6 trades today, tied for the third most on any trade deadline day going back to 1990. There were 10 trades November 2022, 8 trades November 2024. All right, so and that's not a lot. The NFL, it's listen, the NHL, I mean, MLB, there's a million trades done, right? That's what makes the the MLB trade deadline so good, right? There's just sorry about that. Hit the mute button by accident. There's always activity. There's always stuff going on. The NFL trade deadline hasn't really gotten to that point, but it's gotten better. I mean, there would be years where there's, 1 or 2 trades. And, now at least you have some deals involving some named players, especially in fantasy. We've had actionable moves made in fantasy with Jacoby Myers and Rashid Shaheed. Nobody's owning the Jets defense, so that doesn't really impact them as far as the trades for, Keenan Williams and Sauce Gardner, Breece Hall, Alvin Kamara, Jalen Waddle, still Deebo Samuel, still with their teams there. I'm starting to get a little concerned now as a Giant fan. Like, are they not going to get anybody for? I mean, the whole mantra for the Giant regime. Brian Dable's a dead coach walking. Joe Shane, he had a decent draft this past year, so maybe they give him another year. The whole mantra for the Giants is to surround Dart with as much talent as possible. You can't. If you look at the Giants' schedule, I don't see another win the rest of the year. Like, it's that bad. They had, coming into the year, the Giants had the toughest schedule since like 1995. It was just unbelievably tough. And I don't see any wins on paper the rest of the way. So, I mean, hell, they couldn't even be Saints. So you don't want a situation to develop where your rookie quarterback, A, is taking a beating because he's got nobody to throw to, he's got to hold the ball, and his development stalls. We've seen cases like with David Carr take an absolute brutal beating with Houston, and he's just never the same. We don't want that with Jackson Dart. We love the way he plays. If you're a fan of football, you got to love the way he plays. You got to love the way Cam Skattebo played, and that was just a gut punch. Cam Skattebo situation. Ugly injury. And I thought that was very classy. The Dom DeSandro, I believe that's his name, the Eagle security guard, going to the hospital and delivering cheesesteaks and pizza to Cam Skattebo. I mean, Philadelphia gets a bad rap. A lot of it deserved for the fans, being a little out of control, but that was a really class move by him. And even the Eagle fans were cheering him when he was on the car. That was an ugly injury, man. That sucked too. Like, that was really hard to take. We can't have anything nice in fantasy football anymore, I swear. That was hard. That was hard to stomach as a Giants fan. You wanted to run out and get his jersey or get his shirt number. He's a quick new favorite of mine. Another favorite of mine is Bo Nix. I love Bo Nix. I absolutely love watching Bo Nix. He's got stones. He's not the biggest guy. But that's the other thing, too, with Bo Nix. When you look at quarterbacks that make it in the NFL, you don't have to be 6'5" and have it throw the ball 70 yards on a rope. You need to get the ball out quick. You need to process quick, and you need to be accurate. Bo Nix does all that and have a somewhat athletic ability, which Bo Nix has again. He's a good runner. All to the Chiefs, hopefully. Yeah, we're still waiting. So Bo Nix has that processing speed. That's what Justin Fields has always struggled with. Perhaps that's what Trevor Lawrence is struggling with. Lawrence has been late. I watched Lawrence very closely this year. He's been late on a lot of throws. So that speaks to processing speed. Not seeing the field quickly, deciphering what the defense is doing to you. So that, to me, is what has stunted the growth of Justin Fields, has stunted the growth of Trevor Lawrence to a certain extent, and what makes Bo Nix so good. For a guy that's, 6 foot? Russell Wilson, same thing. We about the moon ball, but when he was with Seattle, same thing. He was able to get the ball out quickly to his hot reads. He knew what he was doing. All right, that's what made him so good. All right, we've been on for almost an hour, folks. This has been a good stream, and and I apologize too, not doing as many live streams this year. It's a lot, I work full time. I got kids and everything, so it's tough to find a time to do it. And sometimes it'll be quite noisy. I got 2 dogs. It's those who know that it can be a little difficult sometimes to do this. But I still enjoy doing all this with the videos and whatnot, and got a nice bump in subscribers over the last couple of weeks. So appreciate all that and all the support and whatnot. So and I always found this medium to be a lot easier too. I used to do the blog and all that stuff, but I feel like this is and really podcasts and YouTube. That's the way media is going now. People aren't watching regular TV anymore. Even like the news, the news stations. People are moving toward more podcasts. Everybody's got a podcast now. Brees isn't happening. Oh man, 13 minutes, Steve. I can't believe this may not happen. Let's look. I haven't gotten any alerts. Let's see. I mean, is this really not going to happen? I mean, you got to be kidding me. Yeah. Breece Hall changes background to black. Expect to trade any minute now? Question mark. He's changed his background to pure black, not green. So, I mean, what are we doing here, Jets? Let's go. Let's go. Let's get this done. I'm not seeing anything right now. I mean, how do the Chiefs... Jets really, Chiefs, Patriots. It says the Patriots are now interested. I don't believe that for a second. I mean, what's going on there too with Trayvon Henderson? It seems like, the Jennings kid got some run last week. I mean, what's the deal with that? I just don't understand it. I don't understand that. They drafted Trayvon Henderson. He's got tremendous athletic ability, home run speed, and he's hardly played. They keep giving the ball to Ramondre Stevenson, who keeps giving the ball to the other team. He looks like he doesn't even know what to do with the ball. So, Jets milking it or asleep at the wheel. I mean, they could be. I don't know. Black and yellow, yeah, maybe. Send them to the Pats. They'll kill it. Yeah, I mean, listen, the Pats, they got it right with, and you knew they were going to be fine with Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel knows what he's doing. He gives off the Mike Tomlin vibe, instant respect in the locker room. Former player. I think when you're a former player, it just makes it so much easier. All to the Steelers. Are you saying that as a fact, or are you just because I haven't seen anything? We literally have 11 minutes to go. And the Steelers were the team, listen, I don't know if you saw anything. The Steelers were a team that I was wondering about. I mean, if the Chiefs trade for him, do they send Kareem Hunt to the Jets? How much would that suck, right? You're holding Isaiah Davis. Hall's traded to the Chiefs, and they send Kareem Hunt to the Jets. Right? I mean, that would be unbelievable. Can't trade a third-round pick for Breece Hall. Yeah, I don't know, folks. We're gonna wait this out until 4:00 and then sign off. That's what I'm waiting for. We're gonna wait. We got 10 minutes. Let's go. Wishful thinking. Yeah, I think he'd be a good fit for the Steelers. I think he'd be a good fit anywhere. The Bears. I mean, Monangai played really well. They have DeAndre Swift. Do they need to make that move now for Breece Hall? Probably not. And if you're a DeAndre Swift owner, as I am in one league, now you got to worry about him getting Wally pipped. And anybody who's old enough to know what that reference is. Yeah, I don't know. That was unbelievable too. Monangai looked great. 7th round pick. Will Jennings be moved? Juwan Jennings. Yeah, that's another one. I didn't mention him. I don't know. All right, let me see here. Hold on a second. Chargers and Jets trying to finalize a Breece Hall trade with 10 minutes to deadline. I don't know. There's this guy named Brett Hoffman, 5.6 thousand followers. I don't know. You don't know what to believe anymore with some of these guys. Who's really knows what they're talking about, or if they're just trying to get clicks. How does Jacoby trade affect ETN? I don't think it affects it at all. ETN had a good game. I think, he's been solid. They're not ready. They don't throw to their backs much. They're getting Bashal Tutin involved. I think Bashal Tutin has some very intriguing dynasty appeal. All right. I typed in Breece Hall trade in X, and I'm just refreshing this like a million times. The Chargers. Do the Chargers make... I mean, Amarian Hampton doesn't look like he's coming back right away. I mean, that could be another logical... Kamani Vidal's just been okay. He had a couple of big games and then he had a couple of no-shows. How good has Justin Herbert been, by the way? Justin Herbert has been unbelievable. There's another guy. We talked about the value quarterbacks. There's another guy. And I admit I was leery of him because of the run proclivity of Jim Harbaugh. He took the training wheels off of him the second half of last year, and then this year he's just been doing whatever he wanted. And this team, all these weapons, Arante Gatson now has emerged. Keenan Allen's fit right back in. Lad McConkey, solid. Quentin Johnson beginning of the year was a terrific value, and now he's kind of hit or miss. When you have four guys, four targets, not everybody's going to be able to eat every week, but Justin Herbert's been tremendous. So do they bring in Breece Hall? That's a team that's on the clock right now. Steelers, Texans, Chargers, Patriots. I can't see that happening. The Jets to trade them to the Patriots. You want their fans to revolt. Trade them to the Patriots? A coach that they tried to interview? I can't see it. The Chiefs would be the team. And again, watch them trade Kareem Hunt back to the Jets so that Isaiah Davis can't do the breakout thing. Sauce can play this week. Yeah, I don't think it's that big of adjustment for a cornerback. All right. Let's see. Still nothing on Breece Hall. Guys, this may not happen. 7 minutes to go. This may not happen. I see nothing from Ian Rappaport, nothing from Adam Schefter. And now you sit back and you get your popcorn and you watch to see how Breece Hall reacts to not getting traded. This will be grab your popcorn moment to see what happens here, because again, he's got that in him. He's got that diva quality to him. He's going to pop off if he's not traded. And again, no guaranteed contracts. He's going to put his ass on the line every week for a team that's 1-7 and just traded everybody. Torrey Horton, I'm cool on him now because of Rashid Shaheed joining Jackson Smith and Jigba. He's going to be the third wheel there. And Cooper Kupp is still around. K9 got you. Yeah, Zach Charbonnet. I don't know. Kenneth Walker, you all know where I stand on him. I've never been a fan of Kenneth Walker. I tell you that every year. Don't draft Kenneth Walker. If the Jets keep Breece Hall in that team and don't trade him, they should be charged with a felony. That's pretty good. I don't think the Chiefs are getting Breece Hall. Seems like Veach is firm on not giving up a third, and the Jets are firm on wanting one. Yeah, it's not happening. Yeah, I've seen now that Breece Hall's been traded to a million different teams. And it goes to show you, again, all these guys that are on here, these trolls. Should I add Likely or Loveland? I would add Loveland. I would add Loveland for sure. 2-7 in my league this year, likely because I haven't been able to watch enough. Oh, Aaron, sorry to hear that, buddy. You've been one of the better supporters of the channel. I appreciate that. Don't you need to be so trade? All right. Still seeing nothing on Breece Hall. We got 5 minutes to go. I'm so surprised the Giants. Yeah, me too. I don't understand why the Giants haven't gotten a wide receiver. So we got 5 minutes to go. I'm looking. AJ, as expected, Eagles wide receiver AJ Brown has not been and will not be traded by today's deadline. I didn't think he was ever going to get traded. I did not think he was going to get traded. But that being said, I think there's a possibility AJ Brown could be traded during the offseason. You talk about a diva receiver, there's one. AJ Brown is personified diva receiver. Waddle price too much. Yeah, I get why the Dolphins want a lot because he signed through 2028. They're gonna draft a quarterback, so they're gonna need somebody for that quarterback to throw to. That's the thing, and that's what the Giants are trying to figure out now with Jackson Dart. They don't have anybody for him to throw to. When Malik Neighbors got hurt, it took away their best receiver by a long shot. So yeah, tough situation, but again, so if you're the Dolphins, okay, you're gonna draft a quarterback, you're gonna need for him to throw to somebody. And it sounds like they're ready to move away from Tua Tagovailoa. Give it 6-7 minutes after the trade deadline. Yeah, we're gonna give it a few minutes to see if anything comes in after the trade deadline. A lot of times that does happen. The paperwork has to get filed and whatnot. But the Jets have gotten killed all afternoon for trading Sauce Gardner and Keenan Williams, even though they got a lot of first-round picks. I'm actually okay with that. But they will get rightly killed for not trading Breece Hall. And they that. Yeah, I'm losing hope too, Steve. I have Isaiah Davis fresh to go, ready to go here. Certainly as a trade chip. I have him on my bench. We're getting a lot of people jumping in now for the last 5 minutes of the stream. I'm not 5 minutes of the stream, the last 5 minutes for the trade deadline. And nothing else around the league, too. See, we had that initial flurry, and it kind of came, fast and furious there for a little bit early this afternoon. And then all quiet on the trade front. All right, let's see. Breece Hall trade. 5 minutes left to decide. Yeah, it doesn't look like us. Come on. See, are you serious, though? Are they really not going to be trading Breece Hall? I can't even believe this. Would you go Pitts or Orton? I would go Pitts. I think Pitts has been fairly decent this year. And I like the way Michael Penix is playing as well. And Michael Penix is a pocket passer. He's not going to run. So, he's feeding it to Drake London. He's feeding it to Kyle Pitts, right? So I think that's a good, Kyle Pitts, was he overhyped coming out of college? I don't know. He was an unbelievable player at Florida, game-breaking speed. You didn't see that kind of athleticism from a tight end. He gave off that Antonio Gates vibe. It just hasn't happened. Now, had 1,000 yards as a rookie, but hasn't really approached that since. All right, 1 minute. 1 minute until we find out if Breece Hall is getting traded. Because what you'll also start seeing now on X, all right, Saints traded Trevor Penning to the Chargers, and that makes sense. All right, so Trevor Penning, Chargers lost Joe Alt. They've had massive injuries along the offensive line. So Trevor Penning goes to the Chargers. That's by Adam Schefter. Who do you think, Colt or Atlanta? You think Daniel bounces back? Atlanta, I think Daniel Jones will be fine. Listen, if he's got to come from behind, he's not going to get help from Jonathan Taylor, and that's what happened last week. That's when things start to break down with Daniel Jones. And it was the bad Daniel Jones last week. There's no doubt about it. It's funny, the Breece Hall poll, now 65% say he's going to get traded, where the initial flurry was that he wasn't going to get traded. All right. So Schefter, we did get that trade that came in just a minute ago. So some stuff is still starting to trickle in, and we'll stick around for a few minutes to see if anything else comes out. Breece Hall, Jalen Waddle, Alvin Kamara. And I saw nothing on Alvin Kamara, and I don't blame anybody. Why would you trade for Alvin Kamara? He looks completely shot. Will Luke Musgrave be valuable? Yeah, I think so. He's another guy I would look to pick up this week if you need a tight end. Would you keep Davis in case Breece is a diva and gets shut down? Yeah, I'm still holding on to Davis. This could be, like I said, Breece Hall has that issue with him that, he's got a little bit of a diva in him. And I'm not trying to be crude to the guy. But he has that aura about him. So I started to say before, you'll start seeing reports that'll come out that said the Jets, are not trading Breece Hall. The guy's going to be a free agent. I don't. But here's the other thing, too. If Breece Hall wanted, he waited till 45 minutes before the trade deadline to make that trade demand. Right? This is BS, right? It could still happen. It could still happen. We still got a couple of minutes to see if anything comes out. But I'm losing hope, right? Just like you are. I'm starting to lose hope. All right, let's see. Yeah. Nothing else, too. The Trevor Penning thing, nothing else is really coming down the pike here. Should I get RJ? You know what? J.K. Dobbins, it's amazing. He's managed to stay healthy this whole season. RJ Harvey's playing really good on a per touch basis. He's finding the end zone. Um, you know, it's worth, I think, absolutely it's worth trying to get RJ and at least keep him as a insurance policy, because J.K. Dobbins, one thing he's proven, A, he's very underrated. B, he can't stay healthy for an entire season. So you know what's going to happen. We're going to jump off here, and then the Breece Hall thing is going to come out. You got 2 minutes that went by. My dogs are barking upstairs. They're getting impatient. They can't believe that Breece Hall hasn't been traded. Is Spears worth keeping? No, I'm not using any Titans. I'm sorry. I can't do it. I can't do anything with the Tennessee Titans. It's just not worth it. Yeah, so I mean, that seems to be it, guys. It doesn't seem like anything is happening. Jets running back Breece Hall is staying in New York as the trade deadline has passed. This is from Yahoo Sports. So it seems like Yahoo Sports is saying that Breece Hall is staying put. So that's it, guys. Breece Hall is not getting traded. No alerts. Unbelievable. Jalen Waddle staying put. Breece Hall staying put. Evan Neal, James, he didn't get traded either. I don't understand it. But you know what? This was a fun stream. I hope you guys had a good time with it. I enjoyed chatting up with you guys for a while. I'm going to try to do another one of these soon. I know it's been a long time since we did this, but I enjoyed chatting with you guys. Enjoy the rest of your day today, those especially who had the day off. And we'll be in touch soon. If anything comes down the pike, look for the videos. And again, guys, good stream, and we will talk soon. Take it easy.